Okay, students, this is for Shakespeare, Thursday, January 7th. And remember, Shakespeare is going to try to find a way to get his uncle to confess. And so Hamlet, I'm going to just start reading to see, they're going to make this play to see if they can get the king to confess, to make him feel guilty. So Hamlet, his face pale and his eyes glittering with excitement, waited in the great hall where the play was to be performed. Horatio was with him. Horatio knew all. Together they were to watch the king to see if he betrayed his guilt as the play unfolded the crime. "They are coming to the play!" cried Hamlet as the customary trumpets and drums sounded the approach of the king. "I must be idle. Get you a place." There was a buzzing and murmuring and laughing and rustling and shuffling as the king and queen and courtly audience came in and flowed like a silken sea over the gilded chairs and stools and cushions that had been made ready. "Come hither, my dear Hamlet," invited the queen, a treasure store of pearls and diamonds and brilliant smiles. "Sit by me." Curtly, the prince declined. He took his place by Ophelia, whose brightest jewels were her eyes. But his preference seemed more spiteful than fond. He taunted her with lewd remarks that made her blush with misery until the players' trumpets sounded the beginning of the play. The audience grew quiet, leaned forward, and misted over into a single monster of many mouths and eyes. All watched the stage, save Hamlet and Horatio, who watched the king. At first there was a dumb show. Gaudy painted figures stalked stiffly to and fro and enacted wordlessly what might or what might not have been the tale of a royal poisoning. The player king grimaced, clutched air, and perished in dire agony. The king of Denmark's smile seemed nailed to his face. The dumb show ended, it means it was silent, ended to applause like a thin shower of hail. The dead king revived, bowed, and begged all to attend to what should follow. "Is this a prologue or the posy of a ring?" demanded Hamlet, consumed with impatience. "'Tis brief, my lord," murmured Ophelia. "As woman's love," said Hamlet, with a sharp, accusing look at the queen. Now the play began in earnest, and though the king wore a tinsel crown and the queen was no better than a padded boy, they spoke their love so eloquently that the queen of Denmark sighed. But the king of Denmark's face still seemed nailed to his face. Here's a picture. What's going on here? They are watching the play. See how he's like almost like a fake smile. "Madam, how like you this play?" asked Hamlet. "Have you heard the argument?" demanded the king. "Is there no offense in it?" No, they do but jest. Poison in jest. No offense in the world." "What do you call the play?" "The Mousetrap." The play continued. The player king lay sleeping on the boards. A murderer entered. "Thoughts black, hands apt, drugs fit, and time agreeing," he hissed, and crept towards the sleeper with black coat trailing like some malignant bat. He drew out a phial, unstopped it, and with a horrid smile poured its deadly contents into his victim's ear. The king of Denmark's smile was gone. "A poisons him in this garden for his estate," cried Hamlet, unable to contain his fierce joy. "The story is extant and written in very choice Italian. You shall see anon how the murderer gets the love of Gonzago's wife." The king of Denmark stood up. His eyes were blazing with anger. His face was gray with guilt. "Give o'er the play!" cried Polonius urgently. "Give me some light!" shouted the enraged king. "Away!" Why do you think he's so upset? The play was cut off, ended before its ending. The audience had gone. Tumbled stools and chairs bore testimony to the haste of the departure. The bewildered player king crept back to recover his tinsel crown, and then he went away, sadly shaking his head. The performance had not gone well. But to Hamlet and Horatio, the play had succeeded beyond all expectation. The king was guilty. The ghost had been honest. A furious excitement filled the prince. He had at last set events into motion. Action had begun. His mood found expression in wild laughter and wild words, as if he had drunk strong wine. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, pale with uneasiness, came to tell him that the king's rage had worsened. Hamlet was not distressed. The queen also was much agitated. "She desires to speak with you in her closet before you go to bed," said Rosencrantz reproachfully. "We shall obey," announced Hamlet, "were she 10 times our mother." Now came Polonius, limp with concern, and with the selfsame message from the queen. She would speak with her son. The king was with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Breathing heavily, for his anger had by no means subsided, he confided that he thought it dangerous for the queen's mad son to remain in court. Who was that mad son? Yeah, Hamlet. They think he's crazy. God knew what he might do next. He must be sent away. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, being the prince's trusted friends, the trusted friends bowed, must accompany him to England, and without delay. No sooner had the 2 pupil spies left the king than the master spy joined him, Polonius. His news was that Hamlet even now was on his way to his mother. He, Polonius, would hide and overhear whatever passed between them. The old eavesdropper hastened away, and the king, from force of habit, smiled. But it was a smile that died almost as soon as it had been born. "Oh, my offenses rank," he cried out in wretchedness. "It smells to heaven." The play, with its presentation of the murder, had opened up his soul and exposed the breeding poison in it. He had murdered his brother and stolen his brother's wife. He was in agony for what he had done, a double agony, for though he bitterly repented his deed, he could not repent the possession of the gains it had brought him. I think that means he couldn't give up his wife. "Help, angels," he groaned, and knelt to pray forgiveness from God. So deeply was he lost in his despairing plea to heaven that he never heard the soft footfall behind him. There's no footballs back there. Footfall behind him, nor the sharp indrawn breath. Hamlet stood behind him with sword upraised. He had in passing glimpsed the kneeling king. At once the rich, broad back invited him to the hideous duty he knew he must perform. What is he going to do? He hesitated. "Now might I do it," he breathed. The sword remained unmoving. The man was praying. To kill him now would send his soul to heaven. Oh, that's what they believe. Better wait for a worse time. Then he would go to hell. Silently the prince withdrew and went upon his way. "My words fly up," sighed the king, rising to his feet. "My thoughts remain below. Words without thoughts never to heaven go." Okay, so we're going to stop there. Whoa! So, can you tell me what happened in that story? And I also want you to think about, how is it that we go to heaven or we go to hell? Who is the one, the only one who can take us there? Who are we supposed to cling to? And he says, repent and believe in him, in his blood on the cross for us. Okay, I love you guys, and I will see you next week. Have a fantastic day. Should I show you caramel drizzle? You want to see the caramel drizzle? Let's see where he is. He's been hiding. Let me see if I can. Oh, where is he? Oh, he's in his cage. And this is the cage that I think I'm going to bring into class. So maybe he can have this whole home in class. Would that be nice? You can tell me what you think.